born in McKeesport, 1907. My father was William Fulmer. He was a carpenter. And my mother's name was Bessie. Her maiden name was Bessie Sturm. And I am 1/8 German because of the Sturm. My great-grandfather was a piano maker in Germany. Well, no, when she got married, she didn't work. Her father, my grandfather, I was named for him, Albert, and he was a Methodist minister. My grandfather, yes, my mother's father. I had two sisters. They're both dead.
Oh, I see.
My sister Grace was a Salvation Army captain, and she died when she was in New Kensington. And my other sister Josephine died just a couple of years ago, and she lived in Uniontown practically all my life. I was right here when I was 1 year old from McKeesport. And for some reason or other, I liked store work quite a lot. I started school down at on 6th Street in the West Side, the Crawford School. I lived on North 6th Street then. And then we moved over on Fairview Avenue. Later, I went to high school there. I just had a few doors to go to the high school. I was in the high school orchestra. We didn't have a band then. We had an orchestra. I played a trumpet in the high school orchestra. I played guard on a basketball team from our church. I was in growing up, little kid. It was at that time it was a Methodist Protestant church. Now it's a Central Fellowship church. I've been a member there for the last 22 years. Well, the Methodist church didn't die out at all, but you don't need to write this down, but I mean, the district superintendent and the bishop didn't know us from Adam, and they wanted us to join another church.
Oh.
And we had a large membership. We wanted to stay together as a church family. So we decided that we'd try to find a place, and we did remodel the building we're in now 4 times, and it's a very comfortable church right now. We have a nice pastor, Pastor Kiefer from South Connellsville, and at that I'm a bishop, or I'm a bishop. I served on different committees of the church, but I'm a deacon for life. They gave me that honor some time ago, and they named our fellowship hall after my wife's name, Fulmer Hall. I've been on ever since I started. Well, I was on a church council. I don't exactly remember what job I had, but I have been chairman of the church council for 2 terms, and served on various committees. And as honor, they made me a deacon for life. Just one deacon for life at a time. For life. Now there's other deacons and trustees and deaconesses and so forth, but that's one honor they gave me for that. Then I took a correspondence course from the Columbia Institute of Commerce from Chicago. There I studied salesmanship, advertising, business, all various subjects regarding store work and so forth. Before I got out of school, I started work at the Wright Metzler Company. Mr. Metzler he stayed in Connellsville. Metzler went to Union. Troutman's took it over in October of 1925. In 1929, it became an Allied department store. And I started as a receiving clerk, and I did everything you can do in a department store in the 48 years I've been there. I was assistant buyer, then I was a buyer, and then I was a merchandise man, a sales promotion manager, and finally I was managing director of the store for 5 years. Interesting, this is off the record, but it's interesting to know I had 85 regular employees and 125 at Christmas time. Then well, shortly after that I retired, yes. I retired on my own in I ended up in 1972. They closed that up, I suppose about 7 or 8 years ago now. That was way after I retired. Well, one of the highlights when I was manager, we had a leap year sale. It would be a February 29th, and we dressed some of the lady executives up in men's clothes, shorts and ties, and the men wore aprons and dust caps. And we tripled the sales that day.
Is that right?
And we had it well advertised, and we tripled the sale that day. While I was there as a buyer, I would go to New York on buying trips about 4 times a year, and we would go to well, I was sales promotion manager and also manager. We went up the various trauma stores once a month and got ideas what they're doing and so forth. But that's just combined. Now, in the town, I was chairman of the Merchants Division of Chamber of Commerce. I was an active member for about 10 years of the Salvation Army Advisory Board. When we had officers here and all, I was in charge of that. Now this is something that probably a lot of people don't know, but when Mayor McLucky was our mayor, he appointed 5 men to be an advisory council, and I was one of them. And we met once a month, or twice a month, I can't remember, and talked over problems of the city and so forth, and gave him some advice as to that he asked for. Extra legs and eyes for him. But that was quite an honor, I thought. He had 5. It's the only mayor I know that did that. Mayor Robert McLucky. I have held various positions on the Connellsville Community Fund, including chairman, one term of chairman with that. That pretty near takes care of the business part of it. Now, as you know, my hobby is church work. And I've been president of the Fayette County Christian Endeavor Union for 2 terms. President of the Fayette County Christian Endeavor Union for 2 terms. It's a worldwide organization. It's interdenominational. It's interracial and worldwide. Right now it's still very active in Japan and Mexico and all around, as well as United. I've been to several international conventions of Christian Endeavor, including Hawaii and Portland, Maine, Portland, Oregon, and all around the states and so forth. It's no age limit. It's for everybody. It's a church-related, of course, organization that helps to strengthen the life, the morals of young people and keep them on a track and so forth. It's for fellowship, Christian fellowship, and so forth.
Okay.
Then I was also a member of the Fayette County Sunday School Association for, I suppose, 6 or 8 years. And at that my job there was adult superintendent. Oh, at Rotary, yeah, better have something about Rotary. Well, my most interesting job in Rotary when I was president in 1963. You better check that on a bulletin board there. I hosted a trip to the World's Fair in New York. In other words, I was a leader for that, and we sold tickets. We sold the seats on a bus, complete package for $59.88. 2 days in a hotel in New York City. We had a big dinner up at Mama Leone's restaurant in New York, a trip around Manhattan on a boat, and two entrances, 2 days entrance into the fair for $59.88. Couldn't do that in the world now. That was for Rotary. Everybody on a bus was Rotary or their families. Yeah. And I tell you, I sweat blood the last few tickets to get it sold to break even that price. We went by Greyhound bus and had a real good time. I started Rotary, and I'd have to look on that paper. But around the time that see, Dr. Camel, I believe, and some of those fellows were in there. The YMCA man was in there. I didn't know he was going to ask me those questions. I'd have had that. I've enjoyed being in Rotary. I was a treasurer, Rotary, and then president, as I said, in 1963. You might know Melvin Keller. Yeah, Melvin Keller. At that time, I hadn't belonged to any organizations at all because I was so busy at the store work, you know. I'd take work home at night and things like that, and just real busy. But old Melvin got after me, and he said, "I think you ought to join." So I've helped get a few members, not too many, but a few. I'm working on my preacher now. I think maybe he might want to join. Mm-hmm. A couple of them dropped out, and so I thought I'd ask him. Mm-hmm. Well, through Christian Endeavor, I've done the most of it, yes. As I say, I've, of course, if you wanted something about the war, too, I could tell you. Okay. Yeah, I was in World War II. I went in November of 1943. Went down to Fort McClellan, Alabama for training, and I was in the 88th Infantry Division, and we got our first baptism of fire in a big convoy going in the straits there of near Gibraltar, Rock of Gibraltar. There, straits.
Is that Straits of Bermuda?
Yeah, we had 6 German planes come over our convoy, and they shot 2 or 3 of them down, and the rest of them hightailed it. And then we landed in Naples, Italy. And the first night that I was in Italy, we went by train within 18 miles of the front. And I could see the flashes of the artillery and stuff. And that scared the pants off, you know. Yeah, in the Army, 88. After getting trench foot up in the Gothic line, I was assigned as chaplain's assistant. Right. I got trench foot up there. I was reclassified then, mm-hmm. and I was with the 33rd General Hospital from there until I was finished with the Army. This note too, while I was there, the war was winding down in Europe, and I was given a trip to the Holy Land in 1945, an 8-day trip to the Holy Land. as a chaplain's assistant. And that was very helpful to me as a churchman, you know, I enjoyed that. And I got I got home on Christmas afternoon on a big aircraft carrier, Randolph. But I couldn't get near a phone to tell my wife I was in the United States until I sent her a telegram the next morning. Yeah, I fought from Rome up to Bologna. That was my stay. I missed Angio and that heavy stuff down there. But I was in very dangerous situations. One day I was guarding a machine gun nest in a church, and up in the mountains, and a big shell came in. I just went back through three walls in the church, and a big shell hit the church, and I was buried up to my neck with debris, and we lost about 2/3 of our company that day. But fortunately, I just had a scratch on my jacket and lost my helmet and my rifle in a bunch, and I tried to pull a couple of guys out, but I couldn't get them loose. And we were relieved that night. No new guys come up. I was a rifleman then. I was guarding a machine gun nest at this church. Oh, this was an interesting too. We took this was before I guess that happened. We took 13 prisoners, and I was designated to take them down to the headquarters. Another guy and we took these 13 prisoners down to the headquarters there in Italy. My wife was Eva Yoder, Y-O-D-E-R, and I caught her at the $1 Million Baby from the 5 and 10 cent store, Woolworths. We were in a church play together one time, and got to know her a little better that way, and it was called The Color Line. And my first date was taking her to a high school football game on Thanksgiving Day. Of course, I had to buy a big corsage, you know, and so forth. And we've been married now 54 years. Well, I like the idea of the classification system, where there's a nice variety of programs. I like the fellowship of Rotary because we sing and have a good time there. And I think the service of Rotary is very good for our community and worldwide as far as Rotary itself is concerned. Well, I think that we all ought to try a little harder to get new members for Rotary, for one thing, because it's good for the individual that does it, and it's good for the person that comes in Rotary as a member. It's just nice to rub shoulders with the business and professional people at town, and it's been a help to me in different ways that you wouldn't get otherwise. Dan used to belong to the same church I did on Apple Street before it burned down, and I remember Dan and I went up to when we had a fair, a booth up at the fair. We painted that one day, and then I helped to man it with him one day, and it was very interesting to hear his stories about his service record too, you know. Yeah, he's been a very interesting guy and nice to chat with. Ferris is always a clown and a good humor guy and so forth. He'll never live down a pancake reports, I don't suppose. I try to help with the blood mobile, the blood service that the Rotary does, and help with the pancakes and stuff. And even though I'm getting a little ancient, why I still do what I can. Certain things I can't do, but I try. Oh, well, what I remember about Lou Lynn, especially when he was president, he had us up at his house serving us Dairy Queen desserts for after our meetings. It was very good. Oh, there's one thing I didn't say in what I did. I have been treasurer of the Hillgrove Cemetery Association for about 10 years. Yes, she helps out when the Rotary asks for help. She used to help the ladies with the bake sale and things like that. Now she still contributes to it, but they don't ask her to help all the time because they have plenty of other help. But she's held several good offices in our church. She was a missionary treasurer for about I guess 30 years, and has quite an interest in missions and contacts rights to missionaries and so forth. Keeps up that. She teaches a Sunday school class, grades 1, 2, and 3, on the church council, of course. Now she's a deaconess on the church council. Great gal. She'd have to be. Lived with me for 40, what did I say? 54 years. Oh, I can't say enough about her. She's great. My hearing is getting a little worse all the time, but and I can't do my garden anymore. I can't do that. I get too short of breath if I hurry around and stuff. But I enjoy 3 square meals a day. Try to watch my weight.